G'day guys, and welcome back to the conversation. Now I'd just like to start off by issuing a small apology. I did forget to mention the fact that I was going to be away for a week over Christmas, so for any of you that were expecting regular content, I'm sorry about that. I was off eating enough food to paralyze a small horse, as I'm sure you all were. But now I'm back and we can all continue in the thoroughly important discussion of philosophy and self-improvement and things of that nature. And I want to start off today by talking about gardening, which I haven't done in a while because to be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of gardening. I've been very preoccupied with socializing and work and that sort of stuff, and between that and the chickens going around and eating all of my stuff, well, let's just say there's been a lot more steps back than there has been steps forward. But I have picked up a few important things, a few interesting tidbits, and I want to share with you all today. Now the big thing is you don't need to buy a bunch of plastic crap in order to start a garden. When you go out down to your local garden center or your hardware store or stuff like that, you get these false environment corporatists, these goobers who will tell you that their beds, their trays, their watering can, their pots, whatever, are made from recycled plastic. But what they neglect to inform you is that this plastic had to be moved around via processes that require fossil fuels, cast via processes that require fossil fuels, recycled via processes that require fossil fuels. You get the picture. It's not actually that environmentally friendly to use plastic when you could be using stuff that you're regularly throwing out all the time. So yes, don't give these losers your money. Almost everything that you need to start a garden can be made from stuff that you regularly throw out. And I'll give you a few examples today. Now the first one is egg cartons, something that I'm actually super excited about. Now, obviously when we're using plastic and stuff, one of the nice little attractive things about plastic is you can use a seedling tray which has all these nice little cells and it's really organized and pristine and that sort of stuff. Well, if we want to be, true environmentalists and actually recycle stuff instead of consuming stuff and polluting the environment more, we should be using egg trays or egg cartons. Now, egg cartons are pretty cool because they have all these little individual cells where the eggs usually sit, and that's about the perfect size for a seedling to grow. Now, in the past, I was using plastic trays from wraps and that sort of thing. It doesn't really matter what they were, but the point is, I had all my seedlings in this big row, and when I went to pick them out, I was actually destroying some of the seedlings. I was destroying 3 or 4 seedlings for every one that I got out. It was a very inefficient process, but hopefully with these egg cartons, as each one is separated in its own little cell, I'll be able to scoop them out easily with a spoon without damaging the others. So that's super cool. All you got to do to get a egg carton seedling tray up and running is just cut the top off, slice all the extra flaps off, poke some holes in the bottom, and you're good to go. That's really all it is to it. Additionally, it's also biodegradable because it's cardboard and it'll slowly rot over time as you water it. So make sure not to water it too much because that obviously impact the life of your egg tray. Another really cool thing is a homemade watering can. Now this is something I was lacking at the moment, and I was running around watering my seeds by just pouring water out of a bottle, and that's a bit too much water, a bit too fast, and obviously this was destroying the soil, disrupting it, possibly disrupting delicate roots in that little opening stage, that crucial stage of life. So instead what I discovered was a really cool way to make your own watering can. So what you do is you grab a milk bottle, and if you're like me and you're gymming a lot, you're probably going through a lot of milk, so you rescue one of those from the recycling, you heat yourself up a needle, and you just poke the needle several times through the lid of the milk bottle, and voila, you have a watering can where the water will flow out in a nice steady trickle, which will be much more accommodating for your delicate seedlings. So that's really cool. Now the big project that I'm working on at the moment is obviously planter boxes, because what I'm doing at the moment in the garden is moving my setup from the grass, which is overcast by trees, marauded by chickens, and there's leaf litter and shade, it's just not ideal, is I'm going to move my garden out onto the deck. Now obviously there's no dirt and soil on the deck, so I need to essentially have little boxes to grow everything in, and that's what I'll be doing right now. And this is something I've shown off on the channel before, and it's just super easy. Places in Australia, I don't know about where you live, but where I live, places just give away pallets by the dozens. I guess they bring in whatever they need, and then they don't have any of these need for the pallets. They're just taking up space, so they just throw them out, give them away for pennies, leave them by the side of the road, and that sort of stuff. So I'm always on the lookout for pallets, especially clean ones that have been heat treated. You should not be using ones that have been treated with methyl bromide because that will leak into your soil and into your plants. Not very healthy. So at least if you're in Australia or the UK, look for a HT stenciled on the pallet. That's how you know it's been heat treated and safe to use. So what you do with them is you just rip them apart with a crowbar or reciprocating saw, cut to your size, cut to required size, and then just screw them back together, drill in screws or hammer and nails if that's your forte. So that's pretty cool at the moment. I'm going to have a full setup on the deck, so I'll probably need at least 14 of these of various sizes and that sort of thing. I'm going to be looking at screwing on some handles. I have bought myself some rope. Maybe I'll make some very aesthetic looking rope handles, drill some holes through, tie them off, or maybe I'll just buy some metal handles from Bunnings or that sort of thing. We'll look into it. We'll see what's more feasible, what's more time intensive, and what has a certain level of aestheticism to it. Now, looking upon my setup, one of the things that you may consider to be lacking is the aesthetic. Now, obviously with your plastic kits and all that, it's very uniform. Everything's going to be perfectly square and a uniform tone and color and that sort of stuff. But personally, I believe that my setup, or any other recycled setup, does have a certain rugged aestheticness to it. And I believe it's, more cool to recycle stuff and build stuff with your own hands than go out and just be a consumer and just consume plastic crap and continue to pollute the oceans. Not very good, not for the planet, and it doesn't really reflect that well on you if you're just too lazy to go out and recycle. It's not that hard. So that's really the key point I want people to take away from this video. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of plastic crap in order to start a garden. Everything you need is probably right underneath your nose at home in the bin, and you just don't even realize it, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping to expand the garden quite a bit this year. I've got about 14 different seeds on the go at the moment, ranging from peppermint to certain flowers. I'm growing some nasturtiums, but also plenty of vegetable crop, which I will keep away from the chickens this time and will actually hopefully end up on my dinner plate. Thanks all for sticking around, and have a good one.